Inland Empire Television, Kern County in depth with 17's Jim Scott.
And welcome. Good to have you with us this weekend. We are now weeks away from a grim milestone for the families of the Bakersfield Three. Three friends who disappeared or were murdered within a month of each other now, nearly 1 year ago. Bailey Despot, Micah Holson, and James Kolstad all came from loving families, all raised in Bakersfield neighborhoods considered safe. For most of their lives, the three seemed to flourish. So how did they end up in such grave danger? 17's Olivia LaVoice takes a closer look at what was happening in their lives when everything seemed to go so wrong.
Our community has been captivated by this image of a young, beautiful woman coupled with a heartbreaking plea from her mother for her return. Thousands of these flyers have been posted around town, and now as the family of Bailey Despot continues to search for answers, they reflect on the dark and mysterious aspects of her life before she vanished.
It's like something you'd see in a movie. You just never think it's gonna happen to you, especially to a girl that's grown up in a good neighborhood, raised by good parents, had a good childhood, could have had everything she ever wanted, but took that wrong turn in life.
Bailey Despot's loved ones have feared the worst since she went missing last April. But even before this nightmare began, those closest to her say the year before she vanished was extremely rocky.
She wanted to go back to college. She wanted to join the Air Force, or she wanted to be a flight attendant. She had all these goals. And then she was doing good for a while.
July 2017, Bailey was arrested for drunken disorderly conduct in front of Micah Holson's home. The misdemeanor charge was ultimately dismissed.
Micah and I were friends. I hadn't known that he knew my sister.
When Bailey's sister Caitlin met Micah, he was working as a banker and living a clean life. She thinks Micah crossed paths with her little sister in the Rosedale drug scene just as Caitlin began to lose touch with him. But Bailey hanging out with Micah wasn't a concern. In fact, Bailey's mother believes that Micah tried to help Bailey get out of a new relationship that Bailey said was abusive. Ultimately, in August 2017, Bailey sought a domestic violence restraining order against her then boyfriend.
So she dealt with that, was around bad people in that relationship.
20 days after filing the restraining order, Jane Parent says her daughter reported she was gang raped at an apartment complex after she was given a drugged drink. Her family says they worked hard to get Bailey into counseling, but things went from bad to worse as summer 2017 turned into fall.
It was almost every night there was somebody there to pick her up, or there'd be multiple cars there to pick her up. And she'd be gone for 2, 3, 4 days, come back, tell us all these horrific stories, or call crying she didn't know where she was.
Caitlin recalls one night that was particularly distressing.
She had called my mom one night, and my mom was freaking out. I got on the phone, asked Bailey where she was. She had told me where she was. I kept her on the phone, went and got her, picked her up. She had none of her belongings, no shoes. I want to say it was a couple nights after that was when we had 2 vehicles come and pick her up. And we could tell by the look on her face that she didn't want to go. But if she didn't go, we didn't know what would happen. And I told my mom, I said, she's 18, 19 years old. We can't stop her.
By November 2017, it was too much for Caitlin. She planned a 2-week getaway in Texas, but ended up not coming back to Bakersfield.
But I had looked her in her eyes and I said, Bailey, you're going to end up mouthing off to the wrong person. Said the people you're around, they're not your friends. They don't care about you. They're never going to care about you. You're either going to end up dead or go missing. And that was the last thing I'd ever said to her.
A couple weeks later, Bailey was in trouble again. This time, she was with a new boyfriend twice her age. According to police reports, in December 2017, the pair was pulled over when an officer said he saw a gun in the center console of their car. Police say a subsequent search discovered 4 loaded guns, including an AR-15 style rifle and a 9mm rifle. Officers wrote in reports that neither high-powered weapon had any identifying marks. Neither Bailey nor her boyfriend, Matthew Queen, said a word to cops. Queen, a previously convicted felon prohibited from owning a firearm or ammunition, was charged with several new felonies in a case that's still pending. Bailey took a deal with prosecutors, pleading no contest to misdemeanor charges of carrying a loaded firearm and carrying a concealed weapon in a vehicle. For her plea, she received a reduced sentence of 3 years probation. After that, family says she moved in with Queen, and the family's contact with her became less consistent. But in late April 2018, a month after Micah Holson went missing, when suddenly no one could get a hold of Bailey, her family instantly knew something horrible had happened.
I heard about Micah, and then she went missing a month later. And I told my mom, and I said, no, they know each other.
James Kolstad, who was shot to death in April, is the 3rd member of the Bakersfield 3. Caitlin didn't know him personally, but she knew of the ties between him, Micah, and Bailey. She says early on she encouraged her mother to connect the dots. In December, DNA linked an arm found in a duffel bag in the Kern River to Holson Bake. Now, as Bailey remains the only one of the 3 still considered missing, Caitlin says her focus is to
hope and pray that whoever does know where she is, whether it's parts of her or bones, whatever it is that's left of her, to give us that information.
And to those who continue to prevent her family from getting the answers they so badly need, her message is
that we know a lot more than they think we know, and that sooner or later, somebody's going to slip up and start talking.
If you have any information on the whereabouts of Bailey Despot, you're urged to call Bakersfield Police at 327-7111. And remember, you can always remain anonymous by calling Secret Witness at 322-4040.
Well, we can only hope and pray that someone comes forward to give this family the closure they deserve. Up next, the backstory on James Kolstad. You're watching Kern County in depth.
You can probably guess how this is gonna go. Uncomfortably close close-ups, ingredients defying gravity, melting this, splashing that, charbroiled double deals from Carl's Jr. Oh, $249 each?
Tax refunds are coming. Consider a new car from Bakersfield Mazda.
We love Mazda. When I was 16, my parents bought me my first Mazda, and I have had 3 ever since.
When we received our tax refund, we decided we needed a brand new car, so we chose Mazda, and we love it.
We really do. At first, I really liked how pretty it was, but the more we drove it, the more I fell in love with it.
Bring your tax refund in and join the happy family of Mazda owners at Bakersfield Mazda in the Bakersfield Auto Mall.
Watch 17's live web chat Thursday, March 21st at 12:30 p.m. featuring Dan Trevino with Fairway Mortgage. Dan Trevino will be discussing rehab home loans and will be answering your questions live on KGT.com and our Facebook page. Submit your questions now and watch after our noon news.
1 in 8 women will have breast cancer. Welcome to the 7th annual Pink Passion Picnic. Breast cancer in this county is still the #1 killer for women. And it's only through the generosity of individuals such as yourself that we are able to accomplish our goal and our mission, Links for Life, as a labor of love, to assist in the early diagnosis of breast cancer and to educate about the importance of breast health.
It's the biggest, baddest show of the year, the Fernald Central Valley Sports Show. RVs, fishing, boats, travel, and family fun. Kids free, kids fish free at the Fernald Central Valley Sports Show, March 15th to the 17th at the Kern County Fairgrounds. Presented by Progressive.
You can probably guess how this is gonna go. Uncomfortably close close-ups, ingredients defying gravity, melting this, splashing that, charbroiled double deals from Carl's Jr. Oh,
$49 each?
Welcome back. Continuing now with our three-part series, a deeper look at the Bakersfield Three and what was going on in each victim's life shortly before they were either murdered or disappeared. We turn now to James Kolstad, who was killed less than 2 weeks after his friend Micah Holson went missing. 17's Olivia LaVoice has that story.
When gunshots rang out in this quiet Southwest neighborhood, just about everyone was stunned. When I came here to the scene the next day, neighbors told me that a drive-by shooting in this area was so bizarre that most assumed that the killer and the victim both weren't from around here. Now, the shooter is still unknown, but the victim, James Kolstad, was attacked while leaving this cul-de-sac, coming from the home of a Bakersfield chiropractor, where witnesses say James wasn't welcome. Now, almost a year later, the investigation is uncovering more than just a cold-blooded killer. It's revealing more about James himself and the dangerous circle of friends his family didn't know about.
That man could sell a dollar bill on the side of the road for $1 million if you could just get 5 minutes with you.
After losing her mother in a car accident as a baby, Cameron grew up especially close to her father. She and her dad looking up at the stars for hours, her father telling her endless stories about her mother as an angel in heaven.
That kept me going my whole life, I think. Just like, I knew the love he had for her. That is the one thing I think I get peace from, is knowing that they're together.
One of the more memorable things about James Kolstad for loved ones is his entrepreneurial spirit. From owning his own skateboard shop and getting a patent for his invention, torch trucks, to less mess bibs, Kolstad found success early on in life. But in the last few years before Kolstad's death, things were tough.
That was one of our main talks. You do not get yourself involved in drugs. It is not okay. He was clear-headed, and so when he started getting involved in this, it was crazy. It was like we went from having this great relationship to I just fought so hard for him. I felt like I never fought so hard for someone to love me, I felt like. And it turned so dark.
Family believes James's battle with drugs began after he was hit by a car and prescribed pain medication, which eventually turned into fentanyl patches to heroin.
I felt like I lost him before I even lost him. But I worked so hard. I was working so hard on everything I could do to make him get better. And I wanted that so bad for him, and I always had a hope. I always had a hope for him. I was hanging on to hope, and whoever killed him took that away from me. Was he scared? Like, was he scared when that person was shooting at the car? Like, what was going through his mind? Did he think, like, oh, Cameron's gonna have to lose me? Or did he think that he was gonna make it? That's so scary for me to think about, because I didn't want him to hurt anymore.
As Cameron tries to navigate through her grief, she says she no longer feels anger or fear towards the person or persons who took her father away from her.
It takes a certain person to look somebody in the eyes and kill them. It takes a really terrible person who I feel bad for. I want that person to look at me and see me. And like really see me, because that person took away everything from me.
Cameron says adding to her grief is the talk she's heard since her father's murder.
I've heard so many different stories about who he was these last 3 years. And it's like, some of the stories I've heard are that he was a really bad person these last 3 years. That he's done really bad things. And that's like a lot of the talk that I'm hearing.
Cameron feels much of this talk is aimed at distracting her and loved ones from finding out the truth.
I mean, if we're being completely honest, who really cares about a bad guy who was on drugs, who got killed in Southwest Bakersfield? Nobody. I mean, I feel like that's kind of how people think. Oh, another crackhead just got killed in Bakersfield today. I know that sounds terrible, but honestly, I've heard that before by people not knowing who I am. And no, that's not right. How can we as a community sit here and think that that's okay?
She doesn't believe the rumors she's heard about her father. While many of the people James was with the night he was gunned down do have serious rap sheets, Cameron and James's mother both didn't know any of them. They didn't seem to be an important part of Kolstad's life.
Yeah, they're scary people, but we're so much bigger than them. I miss seeing him. I miss holding him. I miss him picking me up from school when I was in high school and making me kiss him on the cheek. And I'm so embarrassed. I miss that so much. But I still have him here. And I really want the person who killed him to just look me in my eyes and see everything that they've done to me, because they didn't just kill him, it created so much pain.
If you have any information on the murder of James Kolstad, you're urged to call Bakersfield Police at 327-7111. And remember, you can always remain anonymous by calling Secret Witness at 322-4040.
And the third human thread in this triple tragedy coming up. The backstory on Micah Holson. When we return, you're watching Kern County In Depth.
Termites. Feasting on homes 24/7. We're on the move. Roger.
All good?
Oh yeah, we're good. We're good.
Termites never stop trying to get in. At Terminix, we never stop working to keep them out because they can cause thousands of dollars in damage. Call Terminix now to schedule a free termite inspection. As America's leading termite control provider, we'll do whatever it takes to stop them in their tracks. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. To schedule a free termite inspection, call 1-800-TERMINIX and protect your home. And if they ever do come back, so will we. To schedule a free termite inspection, call 1-800-TERMINIX or visit Terminix.com. Terminix, defenders of home.
Hi, I'm John Busby. Here's what some of our customers have to say about Team Busby.
Team Busby is synonymous with Bakersfield real estate. They're everywhere, they're very visible in the community, and definitely a local asset.
When you think real estate, think Team Busby.
At Burger King, the king is breaking out of his bun with the $1 crispy taco, filled with our signature seasoned beef, melted American cheese, crisp lettuce, and zesty taco sauce for just $1. Get your snack on with the $1 crispy taco, only at Burger King.
Weatherby's Furniture is making life easy again. Are you or a loved one having difficulty getting up? We have a lift chair to fit your needs. Our lift chairs are specifically designed for your comfort and ease of use. With the touch of a button, go from a fully reclined position to a fully standing position, simply and smoothly. Constructed of top quality materials, they're built to give years of comfort and convenience. Stop into Weatherby's today and try one out. You'll see that getting up is much easier once again. Weatherby's Furniture, since 1921.
Welcome back. We turn now to the last chapter of our special series about the Bakersfield 3 and a closer look at the case of Micah Holson. He was the first of the 3 to seemingly run into foul play. Here's 17's Olivia LaVoice.
The last time Micah Holson-Bake's name made headlines, it was coupled with the grisly details of an arm found inside a duffel bag here at the Kern River over the summer. Micah's DNA matched to the arm. In the last few months since then, Micah's heartbroken and horrified family have been left to wonder if they'll ever get the rest of his body. But that same family, who have uncovered key details about Micah's case themselves, are not backing down. They're determined to get to the truth, no matter how grim it may be.
I know every time somebody passes away that they would light up a room if they walked up. I'm sure somebody would say, well, Lance would light up a room when he walked into it. No, I wouldn't. Definitely wouldn't. But Micah really would. He was one of those kind of people. Very smart. He's very intelligent. When he was a little kid, we always call him Stats, because he would give you statistics on anything.
Family recalls Micah's love for football and the debate and forensics teams. After a year of college at Harding University, he joined the Navy, but was eventually discharged because of reoccurring issues with growths in his throat. Back in Bakersfield, he started his own family and began a successful career in banking.
Started out as a teller, but trained and got his licenses to be a broker, financial advisor, and that was 99% of his life. The last 2 years of his life, he was absolutely not the same person, but he had changed dramatically.
Lance Holson-Bake says after going through a rocky separation, he believes his son became addicted to the pain medication he was prescribed after several surgeries on his throat. Things went downhill from there.
He was very afraid for his life and involved in some things that at first I didn't know what they were, and he'd never behaved that way before. So when he would tell me, yeah, I'm afraid of this guy and this guy's in this group or whatever, I would think he's paranoid. You know, I always thought somebody was following us in the car. He's paranoid.
Lance says Micah also confided something in him at the time he just couldn't believe.
I'm putting together guns, and I'm going here, and we're putting together guns for these particular people.
While Lance wasn't convinced his banker son could have taken such a drastic turn career-wise, he did have some stern words for Micah after hearing about the gun manufacturing.
Why are you doing that? If you're doing that, stop. Just stop. Just get out of there. If you're this afraid, just stop. Yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that. He was afraid if he did that, disappeared, having owing money or something like that, they would hurt his family.
By late March 2018, Micah was seen for the last time in East Bakersfield.
Micah was mixed up for the first time in his life in things that were illegal, and he had threats on his life before, and now he's disappeared, and he's a grown man. He's had his own family, and was separated from his family this time. So it's logical for the police to think, yeah, he got out of town. He's hiding out.
But family instantly felt otherwise and took it upon themselves to start investigating.
My youngest son was talking to people. Somebody said, you need to talk to Bailey Parent. And he came to me, he said, they said something about Bailey Parent. And I said, I don't know who that is. And he said, I don't think it's a person. I think it's like a gang in Louisiana or something. I said, look, I don't think you heard that, right? But we didn't know who it was. And I think within a week, I saw that she was missing in Bakersfield.
Upon realizing that Bailey Parent was Bailey Despot, Lance's first thought,
I think these are connected. I think one is the result of the other. In the meantime, Cheryl had been talking with Diane, because Micah knew James, but they all came from the same group of people, and it's not a huge group.
Lance says long before the three mothers officially formed the Bakersfield Three, long before groups of thousands of people began theorizing on the cases,
this seemed like the most likely scenario.
He says when you boil it down, it's simple.
Something happened to Micah. I think I know where. I think I know what happened to him. Pretty sure. It's not that complicated. Something happened to Bailey, and I think it's because she knew what happened to Micah. It's weird when it's your own.
Lance says there was no way to prepare for the news the family got a week before Christmas.
There's a sense of, okay, and it's still a feeling of, okay, now we know for sure he's not alive. We know we have something to have a burial or some kind of service like that. But at the other time, you're dealing with, what have they done to my son? What did you do to my son? He's dismembered. You dismembered him. And that is really hard. It's just really hard to think that they would have to do that.
He says despite the family hearing that some of the people possibly involved in the case are very dangerous, he doesn't plan to back down until they have answers.
If something happens to your son, I'm not going to be intimidated by anybody. That was my son. How can you even expect that I'm going to be afraid to ask questions or talk to people? That didn't come into the equation, not because I'm a tough, mean person, but because that was my son, and this is what happened to him, and I'm not intimidated by anybody that doesn't want me to find out. I don't care if they want me to find out. That's too bad if they don't want me to find out. I'm going to find out.
If you have any information on Micah's case, you're urged to call Bakersfield Police at 327-7111. And remember, you can always remain anonymous by calling Secret Witness at 322-4040.
And we'll be back after this.
Are you 18 to 24 years old and wondering about your future? Visit America's Job Center's new Youth Employment Connection, Epic at the Beal. We offer no-cost career assessment and counseling, paid work experience, training, workshop, job readiness classes, GED testing, and more.
I got counseling and workshops. They taught me how to carry myself in an interview, taught me soft skills, taught me how to fill out resumes and applications as well.
Get started on your future today. 701 Truxton Avenue on the second floor of the Beal Memorial Library.
David Erner opened Bakersfield's first appliance store in 1919. Now, 100 years later, Erner's Z's Please Sleep Center is also Kern County's trusted mattress leader. And we're celebrating like never before with 100 days of store-wide savings. Featuring Tempur-Pedic sleep systems, including a $300 gift with purchase. And 60 months no-interest financing. With our 100-night sleep trial and free same-day delivery, your satisfaction is guaranteed. Erner's Z's Please Sleep Centers. Always trusted, always Bakersfield.
Tax refunds are coming. Consider a new car from Bakersfield Mazda.
We love our Mazda. As a teacher, it was so important for us to have a car that was reliable, safe, and it looked good.
For us, the biggest selling point was safety when buying a Mazda for our daughter.
We are definitely a Mazda family. When we got our tax refund, we decided to buy a new car and headed to Bakersfield Mazda.
Bring your tax refund in and join the happy family of Mazda owners at Bakersfield Mazda in the Bakersfield Auto Mall.
Who can you turn to when your pet needs medical attention? We are Bakersfield Veterinary Hospital. Bakersfield Veterinary Hospital is a full-service facility designed to meet the unique needs of our community. We feature 24-hour emergency services, 7 days a week. Call us for an appointment today at 661-327-4444 and learn about how to keep all of your pets healthy, great or small. Bakersfield Veterinary Hospital.
Once again, if you know anything that could help detectives investigating the cases of the Bakersfield 3, call Secret Witness Hotline at 322-4040. That's our program for this weekend. I'll be back next weekend with another installment of Kern County In Depth. For all of us here at 17 News, I'm Jim Scott. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Kern County In Depth with Jim Scott is a production of Kern Golden Empire Television. For more information on how you can contribute, simply visit kget.com. You can also like us on Facebook and give us your feedback at Kern County In Depth.